And to your point about two corporate parties, we're also seeing that in relation to how they're dealing with COVID-19 and this pandemic. I guess, what are your thoughts on how, if they're doing anything in terms of what Congress has done, in terms of what the president has done, and what we should be seeing political leaders do in reaction to this pandemic?
It is clear from actions on both sides that their priorities are not regular people. So you've got the Republicans on one hand that are essentially forcing people to go back to work so that they can essentially crush labor and not provide them with any sort of relief and benefits, because they can say, well, you're deciding not to go to work during a pandemic. Your job is there. Why aren't you working? So that sort of eliminates any responsibility or accountability to labor. And then you have the Democrats, on the other hand, sitting there and somehow pretending like they're fighting and being thankful for whatever scraps, as if they're really putting up an argument for regular people. $1,200 one-time payment is a joke. Mm-hmm. That's a joke. Everyone knows that's a joke. And it's just a matter of turning it around on these people and saying, what are you doing for regular people? Until we have paycheck protection, until we have, there are so many things that we are now seeing as a complete flaws in our system, whether it's obviously we don't have universal health care, we don't have paid sick leave, we don't have robust manufacturing in this country. And all of these things are causing us to have this crisis at a level that we don't need to be having it at. We don't. Mm-hmm. And the people that are in power, they know that. They knew enough to sell off their stocks as soon as this was going to, start coming to light. They saw that happening. So these are people that very well know what needs to happen, and they're just not doing it because their donors are who they answer to. So there's no answer that I'm going to point out and they're going to be like, oh, wow, if only we had just thought of actually giving people a universal basic income during this crisis. If only we had thought of that. They've thought of it. They just don't want to do it, because if they give a universal basic income, then their labor force isn't going to be forced to go back to work in unsafe conditions, and they're not going to be able to keep stifling labor. Mm-hmm. So this is all very calculated. This isn't that they just don't see it. They see it. Yep. They just don't care.
Now, relate this back to your opponent, Debbie-Wasserman Schultz. I feel like she's almost been invisible since 2016 when she was, chair of the DNC. What's been going on with Debbie-Wasserman Schultz? Has she been doing anything? Has she been calling for anything during this crisis? During either of these crises? What has her approach been? And I guess, how would your approach be different?
Right. Funny you should ask that. Since this crisis has started, I actually have been sort of keeping track of what she's been doing. What issues has she been focusing on? And I will give you the three that she has done. She has done a few town halls. The first was on internet children, the predators, child predators on the internet. That was her first roundtable. Being all the kids are home from school, they're doing virtual learning, we have to worry about internet predators. That was her first. Her second town hall was regarding domestic violence. Again, also an important issue. I'm not saying these aren't important issues, but it really goes to show you who she's targeting, right? Who is she speaking to? A very select group of people that have all their needs met. Yes. And when you have all your needs met, then you can focus on internet predators and domestic violence. Mm-hmm. The third thing that she has done, and I find this very, very ironic, is she has done something regarding warning people about scam artists, scammers that are out and trying to manipulate people and take advantage of people in a bad situation. And all of this is very interesting. She hasn't talked anything about actually handling COVID other than just criticizing Trump and DeSantis. That's all, that's all she's going to do is criticize the president, criticize the governor, no other solutions. Mm-hmm. But she hasn't addressed income. She hasn't addressed unemployment. Our state's unemployment right now, I get emails every single day from people that are spending 8 hours a day just sitting there and keep getting locked out of a system or kicked out of the system. It is astronomical, the level of unemployment crisis that we're dealing with right now. And her issues are dealing with scammers and internet predators. So it really goes to show you who she's talking to. She's talking to wealthy suburbanites who are living in their gated communities and very comfortable. And that is what they're concerned about. They're not worried about putting food on the table. They're worried about their children on the computers that they obviously can afford being, being picked at by predators, right? Mm-hmm. So Debbie is very much in her bubble. And interestingly, we also just found out yesterday, a nice organization fortunately sent us this little tidbit of information, that Steny Hoyer, number one, Debbie-Wasserman Schultz, number two, in terms of taking money from police PACs.
Wow.
And what's very telling about that, so she has been, I haven't seen her issue a single statement about George Floyd. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen her issue a single statement about police brutality. We just yesterday, Broward Sheriff's Office, we're seeing it here, our sheriff just sent out internal affairs to the home of a 21-year police sheriff veteran, a black gentleman who dared to speak out against some of the racist systems and policies that were in place. So our sheriff had his people drive out and take away his badge in his car yesterday. So that's what we're dealing with locally. I haven't heard one word from her about anything having to do with this. And I doubt we will, because she is the second highest paid Democrat from police PACs. Wow. So what is her incentive to speak out for this? And so, yeah, no, she's notably silent.
So are people in your community, are they aware of her inaction, of her failures? How's the campaign going so far? Are you able to get the message out there to people even during this pandemic? To talk about the struggles with that as well.
It's been very hard because we're going to actually see, all of us, this first election cycle, whether or not a grassroots campaign or campaigns, because there's a lot of us, can actually succeed without canvassing. And that is the bread and butter of a grassroots campaign. And we clearly cannot do that right now. We are doing some lit drops. We're putting door hangers out, but we're not knocking. We're not interacting on a personal basis. And we have been basically relegated to phone banking, social media, and emails, which on one hand is a little concerning because we're not getting that real individual one-on-one, in-person contact. But on the other hand, our audience and the young vote and the people that are reachable on social media are not going to be her voters at all. So on the one hand, we're at a disadvantage from not canvassing, but on the other hand, the youth movement and the youth power that is what permeates what we are stuck with, social media, that's our people, not her people. So, we're really, this is an experiment to some extent, campaigning during a pandemic. I would say we have like a 90% positive response rate from people once they hear my name and know that I'm challenging Debbie. So our biggest issue is first and foremost name recognition and just people knowing that there is someone out there that they are challenging Debbie. Her core group, they're her core group. That's what it is. And and that's the same people she's targeting with her webinars and her stuff. Those people, I could show them pictures of her torturing animals and they'd still say I'm with Debbie. Okay. So, those are the two far gones. Yeah. But for the most part, we get very positive responses from people, Democrats, no parties, and Republicans, mind you. Our challenge is that we have closed primaries and making sure people know that if they really want to participate, they have to register as a Democrat in order to vote for me.
And how is the primary actually taking place? Is it in-person voting? Are there mail-in ballots for everybody? How is that being addressed during this pandemic?
As of right now, we are having our regular August 18th primary. Nothing has changed. Florida has for years offered vote by mail. And it is a very utilized thing that we do. And obviously right now, we as a campaign are pushing for it heavily. We are in most of our communications, our phone banks, our social medias, creating, a real, drive for people to understand that request your vote by mail ballot. Just do it. You never know what's going to happen with this pandemic between now and then. If you decide you want to go vote in person and it's safe, you can still vote in person and it's safe. You just destroy your mail-in ballot. There's no harm in requesting a mail-in ballot. So we're really pushing that heavily. I would love for our governor to just automatically say we're all getting mail-in ballots, but that's not happening. Yeah. So, obviously I'm a proponent of it, and that has its own risks as well. I don't know that my ballot isn't going to end up in the trunk of someone's car somewhere, Yeah. But as of right now, it seems to be, I think, the best option for us.